Michael Jess is product manager for everything mobile on Android with SAP, and normally this works much better, but the content of his presentation and what he has to present to you will be brilliant, I'm convinced. Michael Jess, the stage is yours, please.
Oh, man, that's definitely going to be a special entry in the history of DroidCon, I believe. All right, so as Heinrich said, my name is Michael Jess. I'm working with SAP product management in the mobile area. And today's session topic is enabling mobility, enterprise mobility with SAP. So it's really unfortunate because I put quite a lot of effort in the slides and the demos that we are having, so we need to find a way here. Up front, I can say I'll be at the booth, at the SAP booth later. So I'd kindly ask you guys, if you're interested, if you have the time, stop by and I'm going to show you everything. I don't think that, I mean, this is already difficult, right? There's no way I can show you this on a mobile device screen. We need to find some other way to do this. Okay, so before we start, excuse me. I want to ask a question. Is there anyone who's not very familiar with SAP? Wonderful. Okay, so the big question is, what is SAP actually? What do we do? And I did try to shortcut this a little and did a quick Google search and thought like maybe we find something brief, snappy description what we're doing, but actually it's not that simple. So I thought hard and I found that the easiest way to understand a company is by understanding their customers and the value proposition they're trying to deliver. So let's put ourselves in the shoes of an archetypical SAP customer. That's not the SAP customer that we have. It's like one kind of customer, which is a production company. So we're trying, and the bubble there is saying product, right? That's very difficult to spot. We're trying to sell a product. So what do we need for this? Well, number one is we need a salesperson who is able to sell the product to a customer. So salesperson reaches out to the customer and says, do you want to have a product? They take a look at it, say, yes, please, that looks awesome. So can I have one, please? Let me check the stock. So the salesperson does and finds, oh no, there is nothing there right now. So I'll reach out to the production department and ask them if they can produce one of such product for me. Well, they too need to check the stock. And what they find is we're just fresh out of the manufacturing parts to manufacture this product. So next department is involved, which is procurement. We need to purchase parts from our suppliers to be able to manufacture this product. After procurement acquired the parts and had them delivered to the warehouse, financing is involved to pay the supplier. Well, now that this is done, production department can take the parts out of the warehouse. The salesperson is notified that everything is in place now. The sales order is dispatched to the customer. And last but not least, financing department is notified that the customer can be billed. So this is just one very simple process. It's one instance of a bunch of processes that we typically find at customers. So why is this important? Number one is, or what's the issue with this really? The key thing to know is that as enterprises grow, their need for automation and systems increases as well. So it's not like that everyone starts with an integrated software suite from scratch. It's really that many enterprises grow organically, and what you end up with in the end is an unintegrated mess of different subsystems. There's one system doing financing, maybe there's some spreadsheets floating around in the enterprise. Maybe there are some other software components for warehousing, and the issue with that is the enterprise becomes very slow. You will have all sorts of data inconsistencies and so on and so forth. Now, our founders realized that in a way, all companies are functioning very similarly. Those departments, everything that's there, are similar or if not the same between companies. And they realized, let's just provide standard business software that is solving those issues. And that's what we are calling, next slide, enterprise resource planning software. So why is this interesting and important? Number one is, where do we find mobile in this whole picture? Clearly, one usual use case is field services. The salesperson is very likely to have an app or something these days to present products to the customer. Another important key area where we typically find mobile applications is the warehouse, where people are running around. So traditionally, especially the warehouse is where we find ruggedized devices, and we are also having, these days, we're finding some nice instances. For instance, Zebra is also here, delivering Android ruggedized devices that are commonly found in this area. These days, this is just one of the product areas that we have, and now I would really need my cheat sheet here. We also have other product areas. One would be IoT and in supply chain management is basically another area. We have supplier relationship management. We also have analytics. What else is there? There's strategic sourcing, supplier relationship management is what I already said, and so on and so forth. So the really important thing is, last but not least, is these days SAP is not only enterprise resource planning, but we are also a technology company. We also deliver a technology platform, and this is, in essence, SAP Cloud Platform. Why I'm leading to this? Because SAP Cloud Platform is an enterprise cloud platform where we are delivering a high number of technical services, and one of these services is a mobile service. So much as Google is offering Firebase, we are having the SAP Cloud Platform mobile services that are fulfilling a similar purpose, only in the enterprise context. All right, so that covers what SAP is doing, the enterprise part. But this talk is really about enterprise mobility. So why is it that enterprise mobility is special or different or more difficult even than, well, general purpose mobile app development? Luckily, I found a nice research paper that's summarizing what I felt are like the key challenges for enterprises. The first thing is usability versus security. And you've also heard this in Sean's talk, you've heard this in John's talk, that security is a very dominant topic. Why is that so? Because when we're talking about enterprise mobility these days, we're generally talking about second-generation enterprise mobility. It's like a research term for this. What does it mean? Basically, mobility since the advent of smartphones, which is pretty much the summary of the past 10 years. Why is that important? Because people are bringing expectations from their consumer experience to the enterprise. They're used to very simple, focused apps. They're used to opening an app and understanding it right away. The days of manuals and reading them are over. And when we personally, I guess you can also relate to this, when I see an app in an app store and I don't get it immediately, I'm just like discarding it and selecting the next likely candidate. So this is what people expect. Reality in enterprises, even today, IT is very defensive about releasing data. So what we find is like, yeah, we're going to manage your device. You need to password secure this. Perhaps we're adding some biometrics to the mix. Then your application is secured by username and password. By the way, please, as soon as you logged in, you also give a passcode. And by the way, I forgot, you will only ever see data in VPN. So that's an awful user experience because you have many, many gates before you can actually use the application, and you need to cross these borders each time you're basically interacting with the application. The second thing is innovation, or the ability to innovate. The reason here is that this is like the better case where IT departments or like administrators are willing to release data. What we see otherwise, and also something that we at SAP have observed traditionally, is that IT businesses say or ask the IT department, can we have an app for this? And IT looks at this, says, "No, this information is way too sensitive to put it anywhere or outside our system premises, right? We have on-premise systems, the data is not going to leave this." So what you would expect probably is that the business owner says, "Oh, well, okay, so then there is no app." What happens in reality is they find ways around it. So there is going to be a growth of Point-to-point connections, because when you start with one app, you don't stop at one app. There's one app, and then there's the next, and then there's another one. So you have a point-to-point connection from system A to mobile app A, then there is system B to app B. Maybe there is a third app that's, again, connecting to system A with a variety of authentication schemes, protocols, whatever used. So there is no common denominator in all this. And from an IT perspective, this is plainly unmanageable. So not only does this slow down the speed at which an enterprise can really develop new applications, it is also like a manageability risk, and it puts the data at risk. The third thing is, so we only have 4. The third thing is, how does development work in this? The mobile app development is a pretty agile process. I think you can all agree upon that. How often is a mobile app updated, especially in the consumer area, and this is also what users expect. Every few weeks, months, perhaps, that's it. In traditional IT, a system upgrade is done every few years, perhaps. The major upgrade project is kicked off. That will take half a year with smoke tests in the end, and then maybe there is a rollback because there were some unanticipated issues in all of this. And the sum of all of this is that there is a mismatch between the skill set that traditional IT has, and when I say IT, ultimately I also mean developers, because in the SAP ecosystem, IT also encompasses development. So our customers usually have IT departments where there are also mobile app developers, for instance, right? That they are not used to this development style. Perhaps they are coming from the old ABAP system, so there were some hands raised about people who didn't know ABAP. Essentially, ABAP is the power horse, the old SAP power horse in enterprise resource planning when it comes to customizing SAP systems. So we had a pretty extensible on-premise development framework that you could use to tailor SAP applications to your business needs. And those guys are caught in the whole enterprise upgrade cycle mentally, right? They're just not used to this agile workflow. And this is also what we're seeing today. So how does that relate to what we have at SAP today? Number one is we do have an enterprise-ready cloud platform. That means security is a very huge concern to us, and we are implementing a great many best practices that we've discovered over the past years, authentication schemes and so forth, in our cloud platform. So that would address the security needs, and it's pretty easy even to acquire SSO across backend systems, right? Because some customers do insist that they want to have multiple backend systems per application. We recommend one API for one app, but generally speaking, you can have multiple, and then there's the SSO question, right? That also came up before. The second thing is, since we are offering a cloud service, much like Firebase, we're taking away many of those traditional IT and infrastructure concerns. So not only do we offer those services, those security-related services, but also other general purpose services, such as push, offline, and security was the other thing. That was also visible on that one slide from Sapphire that Sean presented, where our let's see here, where Björn Görke was presenting the new Android SDK. More on that in a second, by the way. The third thing is that we're delivering development tools that accelerate your development process. So number one is we are very aware of continuous integration to other agile development practices, so our tools are generally ready for this, but also we are giving you ways to generate applications, the bootstrapping code that's required to integrate with our cloud platform. And last but not least, if that is still not enough to support you, to get you up to speed with our software, then we also are heavily investing in a strong partner ecosystem that can serve as implementation partners for these projects. All right, so that was a theory. Soon there would have followed the demo part, so I'm just going to talk you through 3 key development approaches that we have, and this is probably going to be pretty tough just by talking. So once more, I'd like to ask you if you like to join us at the booth so that I can show you those things as well. I want to talk about 3 approaches to developing applications with our SAP technology. Number 1 is SAP Mobile Cards. Number 2 is Development Kit, Mobile Development Kit. And the third thing is the all-new SAP Cloud Platform SDK for Android that also Sean has mentioned briefly in his talk. So the first one, Mobile Cards. Mobile Cards is a piece of technology that's generally speaking very similar to passbook-style applications. So in case you know those, there are variants for iOS and Android. It's a kind of application, general-purpose application that allows you to take things like concert tickets with you, or tram tickets, or business cards. So your data is just being stored in this application, and you can get this by a bunch of means. Like there are vendors, ticket vendors, who would allow you to store this ticket format on your phone. So we are basically transferring this concept to enterprise data, in that you can take pieces of enterprise data with you. You can subscribe to feeds, more or less, from Cloud Platform containing address data of partners or customers. Your inbox, for instance, purchase orders you need to approve. But we also have standard integration with S/4HANA. That is our latest iteration of enterprise resource planning systems. We have standard integration for success factors. That would be our HR-related talent management software, but also for Hybris and Fieldglass. So there is a bunch of standard components that you can use to mobilize pieces of data from SAP Enterprise software. But this is also extensible. You can have your own so-called cards in this application. The cool thing about this is, and this is also concerning traditional, first baby steps in enterprise mobility, is that we take the user authorization from the very application to the backend. Architectures that we have seen in the past is there is a piece of middleware that is accessing your backend system by means of a technical user, so you cannot no longer distinguish between individual users. You cannot say user A has access to that piece of information, user B has access to this piece of information. This is all in our technology stack, and the cool thing is the application comes with standard features such as sharing and push support, and when I share a piece of information with someone else, he will only or she will only able to see this if they have the authorization to do so. Right? So it's also inherently secure. That's a really cool feature we have here. The second thing that I was mentioning is Mobile Development Kit. Mobile Development Kit is targeting something that analysts like to call citizen developers. So it's basically technical persons with a strong business context and a certain lack of hardcore development skills, so people who would feel uncomfortable digging into Java or Kotlin native code or something. So what we did is with SAP Web IDE, we are delivering a visual toolkit that allows you to visually design and code applications by means of 2 things. Number 1 is clearly something that's not very novel. Something we also have in Android Studio is a WYSIWYG editor basically for user interfaces. The second component is that when you add buttons or input fields to your application, you get to specify validation logic by using Google Blockly. Right? So this is a visual approach to programming, basically, in case you're not familiar with JavaScript. This is eventually going to be rendered to JavaScript, speaking of which, so you can also directly mess on that level. The outcome of this toolkit is what Telerik calls truly native. We've seen also in Jake's keynote, we've heard about React Native. We have chosen a slightly different path. We're using native script, but the technology stack is essentially the same. So it is an abstraction layer, a web-based abstraction layer on top of native user interfaces. So I specify a piece of user interface in JavaScript, and it's going to be rendered natively. At the same time, my logic is still JavaScript and gets interpreted in the JavaScript runtime, depending on what you have on your mobile device. Okay, this leads to the question, is this cross-platform? Technically, yes, not quite yet. Android support is something that's in the works. It's on our roadmap. It's not been delivered yet. Currently, it's just iOS, but this is our go-to strategic, go-to cross-platform solution going forward. Okay, last but not least, the very interesting thing, the most interesting thing, I guess, for the audience here is the SAP Cloud Platform SDK for Android. Before I continue talking about this, if you would like to learn more about this, we also have a hands-on later today that was mentioned. That's 5:20 p.m. Hopefully I can get my IT issues sorted out by then. We are going to build an application with that, so you would be able to get some hands-on experience as well, even if you're missing the demo here. So what we did is we are providing both an SDK and a set of tools that integrates with mobile services. The first piece, let's say the developer-facing piece, is a plugin that we deliver for Android Studio. So you can easily integrate, add support for SAP applications in Android Studio. And in this plugin, the so-called wizard, you can log into your mobile services account. So you're basically connecting from your local IDE to a cloud platform account. Why is that cool? Because much as in Firebase, where you can download the Google Services JSON and stuff, the applications you write clearly have a server and a client part, right? There's some some cloud configuration that you need to maintain, and you also need to write matching client code. So what it does is it will allow you to create the configuration on mobile services or reuse existing sets of configuration values and generate a matching app locally. So as soon as you hit the finish button, you will be able to run this application. It will be able to connect to your account. You can log in with your user. And as Sean also spoiled before, it's generating a crude user interface for you that allows you to explore the underlying data service. At the very least, it's a very simple way to verify that your whole end-to-end setup is working, which is a huge step actually towards developer productivity. All right, so those are the things I have here to present, to talk about. The rest would have been demos of all these things. That clearly doesn't work. So I'm sorry about this piece. I will be available for you for questions here and at the booth. Thanks for your attention so far. And sorry about the IT issues. That's as much, for me, it's as much the first time this happened as for the DroidCon personnel, so I'm very sorry for you having this experience here.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thanks anyway.